Hello, BookTube. Welcome to another day in paradise. Very nice here at the moment, anyway. So I'm talking about something that's a little bit tentative, I suppose, in some ways. I've called it reading as dreaming or awakening. I got the idea from a line in a song by Woody Guthrie, famous left-wing songwriter, great influence on Bob Dylan. And anyway, he wrote a song called Sacco and Vanzetti, which was about two people who were wrongfully executed in the 1930s, but 20s. And it's not about the story there, but you can look that up. But in the song, he talks about the character of the two, and he says that Vanzetti. Vanzetti was a dreamer, always with a book in his hand. And just that, it's just about that line that made me think about. It's kind of dismissive about reading. It's a dream. It's out. It's not reality. You're escaping from reality. That's the sort of implication of it. I'm not sure that Woody Guthrie felt like that. He didn't have contempt for reading or anything like that. I think he probably was always all the time reading Gramsci and things like this, no doubt. But anyway, it made me think about that because reading can be taken as an escape, of course, and I've talked about it a little bit before. And then there are these books that attempt to wake us up, aren't there? And some of them are great classics. They're trying to help us negotiate our lives in a more enlightened manner. So I'm thinking about, a lot of the classics try to do that, like Marcus Aurelius's Meditations. I've got a copy of that, but I can't find it, so I can't show that. But quite a few of the classics try to do that, and of course, all Plato, in a way, a lot of Plato, a lot of the Platonic dialogues with Socrates are attempts to help us negotiate our life. So they're not about dreaming, they're about waking up, I would say. That's my kind of criteria for this elliptical sort of a talk. But and these, some of these awakening books can have a big influence on us if they come at the right time. One of the classics, of course, is Henry David Thoreau's Walden. And as you know, I'm sure, Henry David Thoreau lived by Walden Pond in Massachusetts for just over 2 years. And a friend of Emerson's and so on. And this became very influential. He's attempting to show that modernity or our technological advance for those days is leading us astray. He wanted to get back to basics, and it became, a theme, you could say, a theme for the hippie movement and so on as well in the 60s. But this was whenever it was it 1840s or something like that? I'm not sure when it was first published. When he had his experience, let's say. I'm not sure if I can find that. There's a lot of wisdom in it. And when I first read this, though, I was very impressed. I thought, this is fantastic. This is great. It just spoke to me, if you like. And it is a great classic. I even went to Walden Pond once. I was in a band and we were touring the States, and we happened to we played in Boston, and then we were off somewhere else. We got a hire car. So I said, let's go to Walden Pond. My compatriots in the band had never heard of it, of course, so Thoreau, but we went there. The pond's beautiful, clear water. We had a look round and I was driving, got in the car. Just as I'm about to reverse out of the parking place, there's this hand at the window with this badge. And when I looked in the reversing mirror, surrounded by police bearing arms. And so we gingerly got out of the car. We had things like violin cases and so on with us, so it looked a bit suspicious. Anyway, how ironic, really. Henry David Thoreau's bid for freedom in Walden turns out like that. But by the pond now, there's a prison, and somebody had escaped. So all the time during our visit, there weren't many people about, but during our visit, we'd been tailed by these police, or prison officers possibly. I think they were police. No, they were police. And they checked our ID and everything, and then we went on our way. But I thought, particularly telling. Anyway, getting back to this and looking at it, it's written in a pretty archaic style from its time. I still can't find an actual date. Could easily look it up, but I can't see it written here. It's a critique of modern society, modern convenience. And it is beautifully done. It's elegant language. But somehow looking at it, I've not read it all again. I have read it before, once or twice. Now I find it a little bit too dare I say pompous, just a touch. Not to take anything away from the great classic that it is and its influence. I think it has a monumental influence on the ideas of the hippie movement and that later on. But not just that, but in his own time as well. One thing that did lessen my not respect, but confidence in it was when I learned that although he did live, he built his own house, he built a hut or something. He took his laundry home to his mother to wash. I don't know if that's true, but I think it is true. Somehow that slightly demotes the sense of freedom, really. But nevertheless, if you haven't read it, Thoreau's Walden. I don't know if people read it anymore, do they? And it is beautifully written. I remember a passage about he addresses people who are critical of vegetarianism, saying you need meat for strength. And he's talking about the ploughman ploughing behind his oxen, these massive beasts of burden, and who survive on a totally vegetarian diet, and showing that it won't lead to weakness. So a lot of it is that kind of critique. Following on from that a little bit, Aldous Huxley. I think this had an even more great influence on the 1960s. Doors of Perception, Heaven and Hell. The Doors of Perception is a little bit looking towards what I'm trying to talk about waking up. But in that book, Huxley's using drugs. It's LSD. He thinks that, or he promotes the idea that this produces a an awakening because it enhances the senses and it gives us an insight into things that are unavailable to the sober mind, if you like. I mean, Aldous Huxley's a great writer, and it is a fascinating book. The argument, I think, I'm not sure. Again, it's a long time since I've read it, but there are instances where, you know, that those artificial aids did help. Coleridge's Kubla Khan, for instance, and so on. So we know that. And I'm contrasting it a little bit with self-help books, of which there are an immense amount. So an example, Dorothy Rowe's Guide to Life. I don't know if I've ever read this, but it forms one of a very common group of books about trying to improve your life, how to make your life run better. Jordan Peterson is a contemporary one who's writing those kind of books now. Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People. Norman Vincent Peale in the 50s or 60s from using prayer and Christianity to improve your life. And all these books, you know, they're now books about mindfulness and so many of them. Writers know that the mass of men lead lives of quiet desperation, as the saying goes, and people want to find solutions as to why they are miserable and so on, or why life's not going according to plan. And so these books address the need, and of course they can be massive sellers. Probably if you want to make money writing, not that I've ever tried, but if you do, perhaps finding a new angle on the self-help book would be a good way to do it. Seems like that anyway. I wonder, some are sincere. I'm sure Dorothy Rowe is sincere. Many of them are sincere. They do want to help. But I think some are also money-making rackets as well, possibly. The Little Book of Calm, that's another one. There's lots of these things. There's always somebody's coming up with some new angle. That noise is a tractor going past in the field. The farmers are transporting big bales of hay. It's a lovely sight. But I contrast those kind of self-help books with the Marcus Aurelius, the Thoreau, lots of other examples, because I think the Dorothy Rowe types of books are still in the dream. They're tinkering with the dream. They're trying to make your life run a little bit better by tinkering. So you could say, yes, tinkering by tinkering, I could say, don't drink so much, don't drink, don't have affairs, or don't get too materialistic. And they put it in more elegant ways than that, but those kind of things, and they will help. Naturally, they will help. But they're tinkering with the dream. And I am wanting to talk about those writers who are trying to get you to wake up. Never mind tinkering with the dream, wake up. Many of them say that there is this different strategy. You just cut through all that. Never mind trying to better yourself in various ways and be a nicer person. It's not about that for them, for these writers. And some of them obviously have a religious bias to them, a religious basis, not bias, basis. In all religions, there's this sense of, you could call it awakening, you could call it grace, but it doesn't have to be religious, but it sometimes is. And that is a complete change about, I think. And I'd like to finish with a story from a favourite book of mine called Mumonkan, Women Kwan. And this story, I first came across it in a book by Lafcadio. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, Lafcadio Hearn, who was an American, lived in Japan in the 1930s, I think. Oh no, he died in 1904. I'm way off there, so it was way before that. But he's told this story, and he quotes where he got it from. It is a wonderful story. It's called Seijo's Two Souls, and it is included in the Momonkan. But in the original Momonkan, it doesn't give the story. It just says Seijo's soul separated. Seijo's soul separated from her being, which was the real Seijo. So Jo means girl, Sei is the name, or Sen. Something's called Sen or Sei. So the story is that there's a man who has two daughters. One of the daughters dies, so he's left with Senjo only. And when she's very young, she has a friend, a cousin called Ochu, and they kind of become betrothed. And they think when they grow up they're going to get married, and they're devoted to each other. But her father finds another man for her. He wants her to marry who will be more beneficial for her life, bring prosperity to the family and this kind of thing. And so he arranges that she will marry this other man. I don't need to know the name, I suppose. Ochu now feels rejected, and is very upset. She tells him, well, I've got to obey my father. I've got to go through with this marriage. And so Ochu decides he can't live in the village alongside his fiancée, Seijo. He wouldn't be able to put up with it. It would be too painful. So he gets a boat, and late at night he decides he will just disappear. He will sail away in this boat. And late at night, middle of the night, it's full moon. He's about to embark, and he sees this figure in white running towards him, and it's Seijo. So of course he's delighted, and they run away together. They go to a complete different part of the country. They have two children, and they live together happily. After a few years, 5 years, they both begin to feel a bit guilty about having just abandoned her father, just left without saying a word. So they both agree, let's go back and apologise. It'll be okay now after all this time. So they sail back, and Ochu goes up to the family home, knocks on the door, and the father's there, and the father says, "Where have you been all this time? How great it is to see you. Please come in." And Ochu is a bit surprised at this. I thought he'd be angry. And the father says, "Ever since you left all those years ago, my daughter has been sick in bed, looking as if she's going to die." And of course, Ochu is absolutely, as we say, gobsmacked. He can't understand what he's talking about. says, but, and the father says, come and see. So he goes, takes him into the girl's bedroom, and there she is, white as a sheet, looking like death warmed up. But it is her. And he's completely baffled. So Otru goes back to the boat where his wife is and says, come and see this. She comes out of the boat. And then the Senjo, who's sick and ill in bed, gets out of bed and walks towards them. And the two come together and merge into one. And that's the story. So the question, the koan, is which is the real one? Which was the real one? Was it the one who was sick in bed? Or was it the one away, married with 2 children? So, yeah, it's a case 35 in the Momonkan. It's a koan. There's a beautiful verse goes with it, written by Mumon. The moon above the clouds is ever the same, but the valleys and mountains are all different. All are blessed. All are blessed. Is it one or is it two? And so if you know about these kind of things, it's a koan, it's called. There's a question, which is the real one? That question is not a riddle. It's meant to penetrate into the idea of identity and self. Who am I really? It's meant. One of the things is you could say, so an answer might be, they're both Seijo. Okay. But then a better answer is, I am Seijo. And there you're getting into more mystical kind of approach. Which is the real one? What is real? And in Lafcadio Hearn's account, he says, it means that there's no such thing as personality. But it doesn't. It doesn't mean that. There is such a thing as personality. We all have different personalities. And the use of the word soul is a bit problematic. I don't know if they would have used the equivalent word in China. It was originally Chinese, but this is from the Japanese as well. But anyway, the whole point of it, asking the question, is to help us see something, help me see something, help us to waken up. It's not tinkering with a dream. It's trying to get us to wake up to something essential. So it's from the Wu Men Quan from 1228. In fact, the person who tells the story is called Goso in that book, and he was alive around about 1100, I think, in China. And it was translated into Japanese. And now it's been translated. There's several English translations and commentaries on it and so on. They don't give you the answer. That is the point. Each of us, if we want to, tries to resolve the question. And in doing so, we can be led towards some kind of awakening. That is the point of it. It may reveal something. That is the point. Somebody who tells you the answer is depriving you of that experience, so they don't give you the answers. And it's probably a lifelong commitment to that koan if you want to work on it. It's never ending because our souls are never ending. But we might wake up. Who knows? And by probing a little bit like that, it can help us stop being too stuck in who we think we are. So I love those, and the poem is fantastic at the end. The poem tells you a lot. The moon above the clouds is the same old moon, but the mountains and valleys are all different. How blessed, how blessed. This is one, this is two. Thank you. I'd be interested to hear anybody's responses, actually. Have other people got awakening books that have helped them in certain situations?